Hello, everybody, and welcome to the IGDA Foundation Monthly Speaker Series. I'm Kenna Lindsay, your host, and we're here with Christine Wade and Harrison Wade from FlatNine Games. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm so happy you're here. Whoever wants to start, if you could introduce yourself and share your name, your pronouns, and how long you've been working on games.
Go ahead, Christine.
My name's Christine Wade, and my pronouns are she, her, and I've been working in games for like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. No, I don't know, maybe like 6 months. Very short, very short.
My name is Harrison, he, him pronouns, and this is my first game in terms of design. From this angle, I've composed for a few projects before this, but as far as like being a full-time developer, this is my first project. So about 2 years now.
Very cool. And for our audience that might not know, what is the game that you're working on currently?
We are working on Letter Lost, which we would say is a totally normal post office game where nothing weird ever happens.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's get into the questions. What do you love most about running a game studio?
Um, Honestly, like we come from another field in which we have to deal with like interfacing with other people a lot. And I think that's my favorite part of it. I really like to get to meet new people and connect with them, see what they like, talk about what they like about the game, et cetera, et cetera. I know that none of this is like literally game development, but it's part of the process of like meeting a community, connecting with the community, marketing your game, et cetera. I really, really love that aspect of it a lot.
Very cool.
I love I love creating art in subversive ways. We run a theater company and we do very odd shows. We do obscure things, weird things. And a lot of people come to our shows and they're like, I didn't know this is what theater could be because they're used to theater being something very different. Oklahoma, Wicked, and we're doing something very different. And I love storytelling and social justice and all of those things through these kind of back roads. And I think gaming has that opportunity too, bringing art forward in an interactive way.
I absolutely agree. Um, could you talk a little bit more about your experience coming from the world of theater into making a game? How has that informed what y'all are making?
Yeah, so we, like Christine said, we do a lot of more like avant-garde theater. We're a small theater company. The house is only, 120 seats or so. So just having a space in which we try not to separate ourselves from the audience. We try to interact with them, involve them in the production as much as possible. There are shows where we like literally hand them instruments and now they're performing alongside of us. So we took those concepts of wanting to create with our community um, into game development, right? So we have several avenues in which fans can submit content or bits of building, etc. Right now, we have like a live, people can submit voice lines to be put into the game, into our in-game radio and stuff like that. And we just wanted to get this sense of like we are creating this together as a community, and interact with our audience, give them agency over what the product will be at the end of the day. Let them feel like they're part of it.
Very cool. What do you think the biggest challenge of running a game studio is?
Speaking from my perspective, like I again, this is my first project that I've worked on. And so the order of operations of everything can be kind of difficult at times, like the old adage of like putting the cart before the horse. Like I don't even know what the cart is sometimes. So like I hired people who do know that and interfacing with that and trying to make sense of things, it can be sometimes difficult. But yeah, like sort of just like steering the ship of like making sure we're catching all the things along the way, not forgetting things, et cetera, things like
Well,
that. Yeah.
and I'd love to jump off of that too,
Hmm.
because we are folks that don't come from a gaming background. I mean, we're gamers, not game studio background. We have been told so many things about how it should be done, how it has to be done. Well, you don't do it that way. And although I have a lot of reverence for knowledge, expertise, and things like that, sometimes I pause and I go, well, I mean, does it have to though? And we function that same way in the theater too. Um, we hear a lot about how things are should or shouldn't be done, what's industry standard, and I pause and I go, do we want that to be industry standard though? Or, but people kind of get stuck in this habitual place, I think, with the rules of things. And I think for us to parse through what things do we want to keep reverent to for the way it's done, and what things do we want to respectfully go our own way, and be able to differentiate those two things.
Yeah, some of our strongest marketing beats so far are things that people have actively tried to dissuade us from doing.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to say that we're some sort of like visionaries who knew better or anything. It's like we got lucky because we tried a thing that that we were told wouldn't work, and it ended up working, right? So experimentation is a hard part of like figuring out where to experiment and how to use your time in that way.
Totally. That makes so much sense to me. You mentioned that you brought on people that did have experience in that. So my next question for you is, what advice do you have for someone who's starting a studio from scratch? Who should be the first team member that they recruit? A producer, a lawyer, someone else?
Yeah. The cop out answer is yourself, right? Unless you're just like paying for someone else to do the whole thing. I think you need to figure out how you fit into that structure. What can you do? What are the things that you can take off of someone else's plate, et cetera, et cetera. But for us, like I went into it wanting a project manager. That was the first thing I wanted to hire because, like I said, I don't know where the cart or the horse begins. So I wanted a project manager to help guide us through that process. That being said, the first two people that I hired, which are our only two full-time people, it's this lovely husband and wife duo who live down in Austin. They were on the team that made Wildermyth. They're lovely people. Their names are Jackson and Bailey. She does a lot of the writing and the 2D art for the game. Jackson does the programming and then some of the writing as well for the game. So that's all to say, like best laid plans, I wanted a project manager and ended up finding like my whole team by accident. And so we just manage the project amongst ourselves now. So don't get too hung up on the I have to find this, I have to find that, et cetera, et cetera. If the right thing does come across and you find something good, yeah, feel free to pursue that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to go ahead and take a question from the chat since we were talking
Yeah.
about marketing earlier. Thanks, Ansel, for this great question. She says, if you're happy to share, I'm curious to hear what has worked for you in marketing and where you were discouraged. Great
I'd
Yeah,
question.
love to
go
grab
for it.
this actually because I do most of the marketing. We actually late in the process brought on a like very small marketing group that we met at a convention to do some of our PR stuff, things that like I can't get into the room of IGN. I mean, and they can't really either, but at least they have their emails. Like there's a chance. I have no chance. So there are some things where a professional PR agency can maybe get in some rooms. I'll speak to the stuff that like the average person could have any chance at doing anything on. I think that everybody's going to come at you with this is the way that you do it. You go for viral TikToks. You have to try to pay for streamers. And these are the ways that it works. And although lots of things work for lots of different people, I think the first thing that we always had to go to was authenticity. And I market for the theater too. So although I have no background in marketing, I'm not really on social media. Like these are not things that I consume. So, but nevertheless, I went authenticity first. And authentic meant, okay, all of the videos come from the character, my Liv's voice. All of them come from her perspective. When we went to a convention, authenticity first. We knew we could bring a theatrical experience to conventions because of our theater backgrounds. So we did a live escape room and we got actively discouraged from doing this. And it was so successful that we multiple times would get crowd controlled, like, okay, you got to get people out of your booth because you got too many people here, sort of thing. And we were a 10 by 10 indie. So we had people from companies I can't mention coming over and being like, I wanted to run over here to do your thing. Okay, I got to go back to Redacted's like booth now, And that wouldn't have worked for a lot of people because they don't have the theater background. Like we had little like they're called birdies, little lights, like lighting up our, creating this theatrical living room look. But that was our experience. We could do that. We could do it cheaply. We handed out letters. We had this incredible escape room experience. That's where we came from. Rather than, although I'm a Reddit user, I'm not much of a Reddit poster, rather than being like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the indie dev Reddit and try to market to other devs because that's what works. Well, that's not authentic to me. And so I haven't done, you know what I mean? It's like, it's about coming to like, what am I going to feel good about marketing? Like if your reel goes viral, that's great. But how horrible does it feel if a reel goes viral that doesn't feel authentic to you, that doesn't feel honest to you? So to me, it's all about finding the things that feel like your voice. Who are you actually marketing to? Like, I don't want to grab the COD streamers because that's not our game. Like, bless all of them. That's not what we're creating. So again, who are you really talking to and how can you authentically talk to them from your voice? So that's kind of a broad way to answer that, but it's broad because I don't think there's a playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get more specific about the exact thing that I was referencing that Christine mentioned was the escape room experience at conventions. I just thinking about like all the things that I have ever been handed at a convention, I don't remember a single one. And so I wanted to create something that people would remember. And so we came up with the idea to have this is crazy talk, but we printed out 4,000 letters to hand out, each of which that had a letter inside as well. So they were 8,000 letters actually. And
Stuffed
then
in our suitcases
stuffed in our
because we flew
suitcases.
there. So
Um, and we had a mini printer that could be operated with our phone. And our game is about a post office, so this sort of fit our shtick. And so we would see people approach, and we'd be able to print out labels that vaguely were addressed to them. So like person with the cool hair, person in the red shirt, person with the like brown boots, and then be like, I think this is yours. And that was just like Christine said, this just really authentic experience that was within the frame of our game. It grabbed attention, and then like it just made a crowd of people around our booth, waiting to see what letter they got, playing this escape room out, etc. And it was just it performed way better than we could have ever imagined it would, and that
and
was something that lots of people tried to dissuade us from doing.
And we were able to grab the attention of like some big streamers. We had streamers that have over 1 million followers on YouTube. And I think streamers are a really great source of marketing, but everybody's hoping to just go grab the Markipliers of the world. And it's like, we can't really like bet on the Markipliers of the world playing our game. But we go to every stream. If we see it, we're on it. I don't care if there's one person on it. I don't care if I'm the only person on it. We are in every stream that we can be on because connecting with community is authentic to us rather than trying to cold contact or pay $5,000 for a streamer to play the game for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It's all about
Mhm.
like we are good at that. We can network, we can talk to people, and we have time. Others may not. Others may be like,
Mm-hmm.
I have money but no time, and so then then you go that route.
Mm-hmm. This all plays into a question I have further down my list for you, which is how do you find who else other than yourselves is interested in playing your game? And I think you kind of answered it, but if there's more to unpack there, how have you found people that love what you're making?
I think that a lot of it is not making assumptions on, I know I just said we don't want the COD streamers of the world. I mean, but maybe they're, people with multiple layers. I play WoW. And so I'll go back on what I said there and say, like, don't make an assumption about what someone will or will not want. We had a huge streamer play our game last week, and he was sitting there playing, and the very lovely, soothing, moving the mail into the chutes. He was like, "Man, I could just do this all day." It's like you don't know, and so I have some ideas of who I think would enjoy the game. Just thinking logically, but also I try to cast a wide net and not make assumptions. Again, just like at our theater, I think I have feelings about who will like our shows, but gosh, sometimes I'm surprised. And I see someone there who's like, you changed my life. I'm like, well, heck, who am I to say?
Let's shift gears here a little bit. Running a theater company and starting a game studio is a lot. Like that's two whole plates full of fun. How do you keep your health and sanity while you're doing all of that fun?
You're asking us at
Um,
the wrong time.
yeah, right. Um, yeah, I mean, there's the old saying of like, if you enjoy your work, you won't work a day in your life. Um, Patently false. I work every day of my life. I just happen to enjoy what I'm working on, but it is still work.
Hmm.
And I think there's some level of my hobbies have become my work, and that sort of just is my personality. Like I enjoy working on things like that, and this really helps. That being said, like my mental health right now, I'm at a part in my life where I had a parent die very recently. I have a lot of things going on in my life, and so the game development can be a refuge in some way. The same as like working theater, they aren't always a refuge. Sometimes they feel like a prison and whatever else. But like finding the places where you do sort of like recharge your emotional battery. Like yesterday, it was not game development. I had what we call a stink day where I just
Day.
sat on the couch, but I needed that so that I could hop on today and be here and get a lot more work done and things like that. Be okay with giving yourself time to recharge. Basically, you can't just crunch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I also think that um, being an artist, I've been in the theater industry for a long time. We used to work on cruise ships. We used to we just have a very broad history of things that we've done in our lives, and it has a culture of like go 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 go. So if you make it 10, 15 years into the industry, you have to have found a way to manage it because you just would burn out. And I think I find a balance of taking deliberate rest, but also I do believe that there are times in our lives where it is just harder and you are working longer and you put your head down and you just do it. This is my own personality. This is who I am as a person. So, like, right now is a head down time for me. And it's a
Hmm.
lot and it's probably too much. But I also can see the light at the end of the tunnel of like, there is an end time to this. And I have figured out how to manage that push to that point in my life through trial and error and having burnt out many times before and been like, all right, well, there it is. That's how far we can go.
Absolutely. I just want to take a moment to say, Harrison, I'm so sorry for your loss. And thank you for sharing about the way that both of you keep your sanity in this industry. Could we go a little deeper into both of you mentioned um, deliberately planning for rest time? What does that process look like for you? Or do you have any advice to other people starting studios or young game developers on how to actually deliberately plan for rest time? Because I feel like we all say this a lot, but doing it is more challenging.
For
Yeah.
me, I
Oh, go
think that
ahead.
I find a workflow that is sort of like a charcuterie board. And it has all my things on it of like theater, and I have to do this graphic design, and I have to do these voice lines, and then I have to like go into the game and I need to do this thing and I need to source sound effect. Like, so I have these like 15 tasks, and some of them have hard limits of when they have to be done. One of the ways that I keep my sanity is by allowing myself enough time to be able to grab what is feeding my soul in this moment versus just having to like knuckle down and do something I'm really not feeling at any given time because that keeps me so much more recharged. If I have the bandwidth for something, and then something on that charcuterie board is read a book, go outside. I'm a gardener, like these other things that are like that. That's what I need in this hour from my little board. So that's kind of my workflow.
I'm pretty much the exact opposite. I am a tunnel vision worker, and so I tend to like head forward and work, and then I blink and it's like 8 p.m., you know. And distractions are what pull me out of my workflow. So I think the moral of all this is like figure out your workflow, what makes sense to you, what gives you the most success, and try to create the environment that best that gives you the best chance of adhering to that workflow, basically.
And I think like when you're 20, 22, 24, everyone's going to be telling you, well, this is the way you do it and this is how it has to happen. And there's trends. I mean, I think when I was 22, the trends of what was considered like this is how you work and how you rest are very different than they are now, but they're still just trends. And remembering when you're in that kind of pivotal time of your adulthood, I am not a complete entity right now. I'm actually still learning and discovering my processes and now I'm 35. I am not a complete form now either. I am learning my processes every day. And so just giving yourself the space to be like, you could try something in terms of how you best work or your workflow. And you could throw it out next week and be like, that wasn't for me. And that's okay. And it doesn't have to follow what anybody else does.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for more detail about how you accomplish getting rest into the crazy schedule. I feel like this is a little bit related, but how do you build trust as a studio head with a new team on your game side, or let's say a new casting crew on your theater side, and then keep that trust as a leader over time?
Yeah, I think it starts with the little things, like am I paying invoices on time? And that's something that's assuming that the funds are in place. Like that's something that when I see it, I just try to do it immediately, and that might not always be possible for everybody, but that builds that trust of like you will get paid on time, things like that. And so if that's our foundation, then we can build up from there and give people trust that their voices are being heard. Sometimes I disagree with a design choice, but like if I'm outvoted, I trust I trust that other people have expertise and opinions that are valid. And so what I want doesn't always make it into the game. Um, because it's a group design effort. And then that just funnels upward of other things that build trust amongst the people that you're working with, et cetera.
I think too, finding a team that your values really match with one another. I'll
Hmm.
use the theater as a different example because we've run the theater for almost 10 years, so that we have a lot more history with it. But we hire people that have very similar values. We have a lot of moms on our team, so we're on the same page. Like, if the rehearsal ends at 9, it ends at 9. You have kids to go home to. And that is a culture that we create so that we build trust together. We don't have one person on our team who has totally different values, and I'm not just talking about like work style values or anything like that, but even just like how we run our room. We're not dictatorial, but we're also not communal in how we run our theater. And so like we have found a group of people that we all have a similar creativity style and vision. And in the case of the game, we want to make a weird game. We don't want to use AI to do it. We want to be scrappy. Like we want to be creative. Like all of these things where it's like it'd be a lot harder if I just pulled anybody off the street and we all had really different values on what we wanted to create. If the rest of the team was like, my biggest goal is money and that's all that matters, then I'm not even trying to vilify that. I'm just saying that would be really challenging within our studio because all these choices that we make would not align with that meta choice. So finding people who you're like, we're on the same values page is going to make it a lot easier to trust and build respect and whatnot.
That makes a lot of sense. Um, for my next question, it's related to building trust as a studio head, I think. When running a studio or any large team project, leadership has to make difficult announcements sometimes that are not comfortable to realize yourself or to share with the team that you probably love and respect. So, projects losing funding or a drastic pivot being needed. How do you present these announcements in a way that helps you maintain trust in leadership and maybe even friendship with these people you've been working with?
Yeah, we haven't had to do anything like this yet, really, other than like I think the closest thing is pushing launch dates back, et cetera. Um, yeah, this does piggyback after the last thing of like talking about if you build that foundation from the start of trust, then the sort of breadth of things that you can ask of your team grows within reason. Obviously, I would not ask them to do anything they're not comfortable with or like anything that's not moral or anything like that. But like they're willing to work a weekend or things like that now because they trust in the process and trust in the product and things like that. So that being said, that leads into um, in pushing the launch date back, right? Being as truthful and honest and things like that as possible. Um, Communication really is the biggest part of that. Being authentic and truthful in your communication, and then that carries into keeping your team sort of motivated and not feeling like it's being pushed back because of them or um, maybe we aren't going to launch or things like that. Just keeping that trust rolling of that we're fine things are gonna happen. It's just, we uh, didn't estimate perfectly, or like, oh, we just really need that extra like couple months for polish or things like that.
What are some projects you enjoy or value that are the intersection of theater and games?
We talked a little bit about this at the top, but I'll get into more specifics here. Of my favorite thing about this is the community building, and that's one of the founding principles of like what we wanted to make in a game, was a game that we could actively play in the world of with our community, basically. So we have lots of ways in which fans can put their own touch and their own sort of impact on the final product of the game. We have an ARG that people can play right now in the world of our game and interact with us and things like that on our Discord. Basically, the whole project of like role playing and interfacing with our fans, I love it. It's so much fun. It gets people involved, it gets people invested. And to be quite frank, it saves us some work from time to time. Fans have had like really excellent theories or thoughts or bits of story building moments that are just like, oh yeah, that's way better than what I came up with. So like let's just put that in the game instead. It's so much fun. I love the sort of communal building of this world that we've gotten to do with them.
And like when we hop into streams on Twitch, my username is your boss Liv, and Liv is the character that I play. And so I'm sort of role playing as a dev and like a little bit role playing as the character. And so it's very fun to, hop in and someone will be like, "Oh, thank you so much for following your oh my God, you're my boss." Like things like that are really fun to play into. And I think it once people know how small and scrappy our team is as well, they're more excited to interface with it because it feels very personal to them. And so, and we do this at the theater too, is just like removing the barrier between things to create more interface between audience and actor.
Very cool. I feel like this plays into community building. What criteria do you factor in when deciding what industry events to attend, and how can you, as an independent game developer, evaluate which events will bring you? I feel like this is really clinical sounding, but return on investment for your time and energy and travel.
Yeah, that's tough. Our first convention we did was DreamHack Dallas, and we got into that by you apply for it was the indie playground area, and I applied to it. I didn't think we'd get anything, and then my programmer and artist happened to be like in town visiting us at the time, and I got the email, and we were able to celebrate that. That was really exciting. We had no idea what that would entail. And how many people would be there? Was the indie playground even big? We were sort of off in this like corner. It was really hard to gauge. It's going to feel like a cop out answer, but I feel like you just have to do one and see how it is, or even attend. You don't have to do one. Like just go to one and see what it's like. They're not all the same, but it will give you some sort of frame of reference as to um, what that environment is like. You'll get a sense of like, what are the things that grabbed my attention? What are the things that I was handed or that I saw or that I engaged with that I don't even remember now without seeing a picture of it later? And build your sort of experience or booth, whatever, handouts, etc., around around your experience of it, right? Knowing what gets you the best return on investment, it depends on what kind of return you're looking for. We didn't have a game launched at the time that we did DreamHack, and we did PAX West a few months back as well, almost a year ago now as well. Geez, that time flies. Okay, but anyways, yeah, we didn't have a game launched. So our return that we wanted was attention and wish lists and people in our Discord, fans to interact with, etc. So we tried to gear our experience towards making sure that we got those returns. Our escape room experience, the final step of it was wish listing the game, right? Throughout the experience, there were different parts where you could interact with our social media, hop on our Discord to solve a puzzle, all sorts of things like that. We tried to gear our sort of call to action around what we wanted from a return. So if your return that you wanted was sales, right, you could point much more attention to selling your game. You could run a discount at the same time that you're at this convention to sort of lower the bar to entry, things like that. Yeah,
I think too, a lot of it depends on what's local to you.
yeah,
Our programmers are in Austin, so getting them to Dallas, and then we were able to drive down in one long day. That was, you know, kind of a no-brainer because the cost was pretty low. PAX West was a lot higher cost, but we decided to do it after the success of DreamHack. But then from there, I think there's a lot of cost thought about like, all right, well, if this is going to cost $10,000, is this where we want to spend $10,000? And the answer might be yes. But if there was a convention downtown where we are, I mean, like we'd be there in a heartbeat because the cost becomes so much lower if it's local or within a couple hours. And then in terms of like speaking or interviews or things like that, we go do everything that we can because you don't know what thing will spark something else. We had a streamer who had over 1 million followers on Twitch stream the game last week, and we got that because we sat in the stream of someone who had, I don't know, a dozen people in their chat, and they were so wonderful and great, and we connected with them, and we're getting them in the game on the radio, and so we didn't do that in order to get something else, but like you don't know which one of those things will connect you to something else. So it's like if we have the time, if we're not at rehearsal, we are going to everything that we can in hopes of everyone wants the like lucky, spark, but you've got to work to make the luck happen.
hmm
Absolutely. Something you said reminded me of a concept. This is off the list completely, but I often feel like I am in a game or theatrical interaction with someone and they know someone that I went to school with or worked on a
Yeah.
project with. What do
yeah.
you think about the concept of it's a small world after all? And how has
Oh,
that
yeah,
impacted
absolutely.
your creative career?
Yeah, it's so hard to like quantify what does return on investment mean in that question because like we as far as like in the moment return on investment, I think we walked out of DreamHack. We went from 0 to like 600 wish lists, which for us, we didn't have any frame of reference. We were like, oh my gosh, wow, we have 600 people who clicked the button. Now we would be like, man, that was not very many for that amount of effort. But DreamHack was the foundation of it taught us, that was our first run at the escape room at the booth. We met a bunch of streamers that we are still in contact with today, content creators. We were on a bunch of podcasts and interviews. It led us to this point right here by a roundabout sort of way. We met our people who did our marketing, which then forwarded us to somewhere else, which then connected us to all of you here. So like, the payback from DreamHack is still ongoing, even though the immediate payback was maybe not what we would want it to be right now. It's still going. And I don't know how many people have talked about us, like or texted or sent links to their friends about us and things like that. I don't know. It's hard to quantify. And the only reason that it happens is because you go out and do things and put yourself in positions that can trigger those things to happen.
And that people want you to help them with things. So if someone's
Mhm.
like, hey, can I interview you? So that they can promote their own channel with interviews, I'm like, yeah, like let's help each other, right? I want to help you by populating your channel. You want to help me by highlighting, you know what I mean? I'm like, if you are in the mindset of helping and supporting and lifting up other people, it's hard for that not to at some point in some capacity come back to help you. And so we just really put our mindset in like having streamers be on the radio, or I mean not even just streamers, like lots of people on the radio. That's a really exciting fun thing. Someone can have a credit, and it's like great, that helps people, that helps us, like we're connecting with community, we're putting new content in, but it has to come from an authentic place of wanting to help others.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me take it that way.
Yeah.
My next question from our list is what has helped you get where you are, and what advice would you offer to others who are looking to go a similar direction?
I am a firm believer that there are many opportunities that you can get by just asking a question because nobody else was willing to ask that question. And so like I said, the networking aspect of this is one of my favorite parts of it. And finding things to ask that that put you in that position to open up opportunities for you and et cetera, right? You the answer might be no, but a lot of times we have gotten a lot of opportunities just based on the fact that we were willing to ask the question or willing to talk or um, cross promote or help someone else out. Those have been some of the most successful things that we've done, and it only happened because we put ourselves out there and did it.
I would say as well, really get I mean, at the theater, we're very scrappy. We're very like, how are we going to make this work with a piece of twine and a toothpick? And I think that I put that mindset into the game a lot as well, in that don't undersell what you are capable of doing. I voice act in the game, but I did some writing. I'm doing programming. I did graphic design. Like, I hop on with my programmer. I've never used Unity in my life, and he's like, "Okay, da la la la. Okay, here's how we do this." And suddenly, I'm sourcing and editing and implementing sound effects. And it's like, obviously, it takes someone who's willing to kind of step you into that space, but I would just say, like, dig in, because you don't have to be excellent at something to start. You can just start somewhere. And especially in a game like this, where, we're a very small team, we're trying to do so much polish and detail. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I mean, I can probably figure that out. How hard could it be? There are lots of things I can't do with that, but there are things I can. And so, like, figure out what your strengths are and dig into that. Like, feel like we put ourselves in this box of, oh no, this is the thing that I do. And I'm like, I mean, how boring is that? You're so capable, you know?
Absolutely. This feels related to just start somewhere to me. How do you fail with dignity or recover from something that you don't feel like you did good enough at, if that makes sense?
Yeah, just don't fail. Easy, right? No, yeah, I mean, I goof on things all the time. Failing with dignity, though, I think I joke about this a lot, but like one of the funniest things about making a game this weird is that people often assume that bugs are like intended, you know? And so some of our biggest or our best fails are things that are now like purposefully in the game, as like a little joke or things like that. Just be willing to laugh off the fact that like you're going to fail, at things. You're not going to fail, period, but you will fail at things throughout the course of your life, and like that shouldn't be a surprise. You know, I as a kid and still today, I practiced. I was a pianist, and I still am. I'm a professional pianist here in Minnesota, and I always told my students, I make mistakes every time I sit down at the piano, but like learning how to continue onward while playing when you make those mistakes, learning how to unlearn mistakes that you've made, et cetera, is part of the process of learning things. So yeah, mistakes they don't bother me anymore. Like if it happens at a really unfortunate time, it's like, oh man. But take that as a lesson to move forward, and every mistake is a lesson and something that you can learn from, basically.
Well, and having like a beginner's mindset. I'm a gardener, and people tell me all the time, oh, I don't have a green thumb. I kill everything. I'm like, I promise I've killed more by so many magnitudes than you have ever killed, because that's just the nature of like putting yourself into spaces like this. And I think that theater has helped us learn this in really specific ways, because uh, I've picked up so many instruments. I've been a pianist for like decades, but other instruments I've picked up as I've needed. But I know people who are professionals in all these instruments. I can play mandolin, but I know professional mandolin players. So having a beginner's mindset of like, my goal is not to be the best mandolin player. I know them, and I'm not going to be them. I have friends who are cirque performers. I have friends who are professional ballerinas. I'm like, I can't touch my toes, but like, that doesn't mean I can't do other things. And so just being willing, you do not need to be complete now. You don't need to be an expert at everything that you do, and you can do something still, and you just can't be daunted by the people around you who are at a higher level. That's fine. Let them be at a higher level than you. What a gift to be able to learn from them. So just don't be afraid, and the more you are a beginner at something, the easier it gets. I'm not daunted at all by picking up a new instrument now and being like, I'm so bad at this thing. And In a year, I'm not, but it's not scary because I've done it over and over again now.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. For our next question, in terms of making and marketing subversive content, how do you balance communicating your game or show succinctly without losing what is unique and surprising?
Yeah, this is a really hard one because our initial intent on marketing was to never showcase anything that was weird in the game. We wanted people to discover it all in playing it, and we realized very quickly that that wasn't going to work. And there's a lot of things we didn't want to show at all. There are a lot of things that no one has seen yet, though, and there are things that we will not say until the game is released. So we just hold back certain things, or certain things we held back for a long time, so that they become little nuggets later down the road. We just did a show recently, actually, where there's a huge section where the whole stage goes to black light and there's writing all over the walls that was all invisible before, and like black light on our bodies and everything. And it was so hard not to market this because I was like, you guys, it's so cool. All the pictures, the black light, we had it all over our faces. So if there are really cool things, it can be worth it. But sometimes you got to lead a horse to water a little bit. And our hope is that on our next game, because people know what kind of games we make, we could be a lot more coy about it. Um, and also, I think we created a tagline that allowed us to be coy that I hope that we can keep going on. This is a totally normal post office game where nothing weird ever happens. That came out of DreamHack and that became kind of our tag sign. But uh that communicates a lot, and we hope on the next game that can be everything and we don't actually have to show all the fun things before the game comes out.
Yeah, I think to just sort of piggyback off of that, I view things sort of as like I don't know what to describe it as, some sort of like bar, and as we continue to like raise that bar, let's just say we establish the bar here and we showcase things from like the first 20 minutes of the game. After 3 or 4 months of showing those same things, those are no longer surprising. And so we have to raise it just a tad and show one more thing. And so now we're, starting to show things that appear later in the game. But I think context is really important with that as well. Like we've been showcasing, there's I'll call her a post office assistant who joins you in the game. It's a mannequin named Shelly, and she follows you around the post office and does various things, but you have no context outside of that as to like what she's there for, what she is. You just know that she's a scary mannequin that you turn around and she's right there. So when that happens in the game, it will still be a surprise because you don't know when it happens. Basically, maintaining a bit of that secret or finding a way to tell it that doesn't give people too much information.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Um, my next question for you is, are there tools that you found useful that you would recommend for developers, projects, project management, business development, anything that you've encountered that you're like, this specific thing is awesome and this is not sponsored? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think mostly like being comfortable with working in spreadsheets. My programmer is going to laugh at this if he watches this. We tease him all the time for his use of spreadsheets, but everything is in a spreadsheet, and there's so much information that you can keep track of and organize and everything. Like that is so much of it. As far as like literal exact tools, we've used things like task sort of managing like Trello, where
Mm-hmm.
you can assign tasks and move things like that. We toss that aside for spreadsheets again eventually. But things like that, like find the thing that makes sense to you that works for your workflow. Um,
Well, and
and
can
that
I
helps you
piggyback
organize things. Yeah, go for it.
off of that is that I am a big advocate of like, see if you can find it free first and then see if you like it first.
Hmm.
I The only subscription I can think of that I pay for is Adobe because I am a content creator for the theater and for the game. And so I use the whole suite for all sorts of different things. Um, and but beyond that, I'm sourcing free images. And there's you have to learn a little bit about like public domain rules and things like that. A lot of our music is old free music. Like get creative. I think limitation creates creativity. And so it's not just about like, well, I don't want to pay for it, but it's like we get tempted by being like, expensive means good. And I'm like, well, wait. Do you actually know what you want to do, or do you just want to pay for something? And then if you find something that is, I tried a social media suite to help post things to multiple places, tried it for a little bit, and I was like, actually, the limitations within this, it's not worth paying for. And so, you can feel free to play around with that, but just don't get tempted by paying for it will make it worthwhile. Um, Start by looking for things that are free and then expand.
I think that's a really important tip. Thanks for sharing it. What pushed and drove you to make your own game? And what was some of the biggest struggles that you had starting out? And how did you overcome those struggles?
This is sort of a recurring thing with us, is that our greatest strength and our greatest weakness is we always say, how hard could it be? And so we started our own theater company, and um here we are today still doing it. And I to be specific about like what sort of gave me the first idea is like I'm a professional musician here. I'm music director for theaters. I do all sorts of things, compose, arrange, and I wanted to compose music for games. And I had composed for a few projects that it was like ground level rev share, you name it. That I did all of those things, and all of them just like fall apart. Like not all of them, but all the ones I did just fell apart. And it's like, man, I did all that work and did nothing. How hard could it be to just do it ourselves? And Christine at the time had just gotten into weird indie games, and so she was like, oh, have you ever
I was
heard of
just
this
chugging
game?
them,
Yeah,
that was
just pounding indie games. And she was like, all right, have you ever heard of this game, like Papers, Please? And check this out, Outer World or Outer Wilds and Inscription and all these things. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything. It's so cool. And like, well, we could do something like that. How hard could it be? And so yeah, we just decided to do it. I One of my really good friends here in Minneapolis is someone who builds and designs live escape rooms for his day job. And so, I talked to him, and it's like, hey, do you want to make a weird game? We'll make a weird escape room game that takes place in a post office or whatever. And just start from the ground up of putting things together like that. So that's how we got started making our own game. Biggest struggle wise, yeah, it is a huge learning curve. There's a lot to do, a lot of time to manage. It's a long time to be focused on a big project like this. And we're, approaching the finish line of it now, and just getting the amount of like gas in the tank, just running on fumes to be like, I just need to get one more month
we're
out of it,
so
and then we'll
excited
be
to like start
yeah,
our next game because we know so much more. But we're
right,
used to
yeah,
working on like 4-month chunks for the theater that we're like, oh my God, we're still working on this. Like, it's
yeah.
kind of crazy.
It's tough. It is a long time to stay focused on a thing and stay passionate and excited about a thing. And I still am very passionate and excited about this game. It just takes a certain level of like fortitude that I think most people are or would be surprised to run into when they get to that level of it.
I think we're also called upon to do so many different things if you don't have a publisher. Um, I mean, you can't just make the game. You have to market the game. You can't just make the game. You have to think about what is going to sell as a game. You have to have a purpose. You have to have values. You have to have all these different things that are just like, I'm not a programmer, so I can't just make the game, but that's only a portion of it. And so I do think that it's a stamina game to just keep at it. And every morning when I wake up and I'm like, let's make another TikTok. You just got to like learn to love the long process.
You both hit on some things that I can relate to transitioning from doing live theater to game development. It's a stamina
Hmm.
long-term project compared to the theater production cycle for
Yeah.
sure. The next two questions, I'm going to ask them together. And I know that you both have a wealth of experience in entertainment and the arts throughout your career. So if you have any thoughts on this throughout all of those, I would love to hear them. Which is, how do you raise money to make a project that you're excited about? And what advice do you have to people in the games industry that are struggling right now as we go through layoffs and all of the challenging things on people's plates?
Yeah, this is a tough one. We didn't do any of this. We started from the ground up because we were fortunate enough to have like this foundation in another business. And but some things that we looked at in the early phases of this were things like crowdfunding, Kickstarter, that sort of thing. Those things I have seen work. I have seen theaters and game companies, etc., have really successful what are the campaigns, have really successful campaigns through those. I've seen people not, so just doing as much research as you can and into like what did people do correctly, incorrectly, what succeeded, what didn't succeed, etc., to give yourself the best chance of success for something like that. um, Looking into publishers, we have talked with a lot of publishers and ultimately have not gone forward with any of them. But like, that might be the right thing for you and your project. I think it's a difficult thing to find when is the right time to talk to a publisher. Um, because if you go too early, you'll get the answer that you have nothing to show. And if you go too late, you'll get the answer of, well, you're releasing too soon. And so finding that like the Goldilocks zone that, to be honest, doesn't exist, especially in a first time developer, of like the game is showcaseable enough to show you what I have, etc. But yeah, like there are some publishers who are willing to give money and like fund things like that. I wouldn't put too many eggs in that basket. There are lots of grants, like places that you can apply for grants for game development, business loans, and things like that. There's a wealth of options. It's just sort of up to you to research what fits your project the best. And if you start out small enough, you will find something that fits the bill of what you're looking for, hopefully. And if not, find people who are like-minded, who also want to get in on the ground floor of creating something, who are willing to sort of put in that extra time at the top to, um, you know, be willing to sacrifice some of their own time to start something from the ground up and make something really cool together.
I think too, this happens in theater a lot where I'll hear, I'm a voice teacher as well. And back when I would teach younger people, they'd be like, well, I heard that so and so never had a day of training in their life. And now they're on Broadway and making $20,000 a week. I'm like, okay, well, they shouldn't be our blueprint. Because that is such an unusual circumstance. We should use the majority as the blueprint. And so I think that people sometimes look at really specific crowdsourcing moments or publisher moments or well Markiplier, I can't believe I mentioned him twice in this, but Markiplier decided to make a movie of that. I'm like, those are all super cool things, and absolutely that could happen to you too. But the problem I think is banking on those paths as like, well, that's going to happen to me, because I'm like, what you're not hearing is the literal thousands of people who that did not happen to. And so you've really got to think realistically, not just in the like, well, if like somehow this total Goldilocks thing happened, that would be really cool, but don't plan on it. I think that's important to think about. And I mean, also, I remember when we were at convention, someone's like, "Man, are you hoping your game sells well so you can get like 8 Lamborghinis?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. We don't get paid. Harrison and I don't get paid. We're paying people to do this." So, being realistic too about like what the outcomes could be wonderfully surprised versus having expectations of the very rare situations where a solo developer like Concerned Ape makes millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Because also, sorry, small tangent. Concerned Ape created something at a time where that was not an established genre. Like Stardew Valley, that although it was inspired by many other things, it was at the beginning of that new genre of cozy gaming. Now everyone's trying to recreate that and be like, but he made this. I'm like, right, but now you have to make the thing that doesn't exist yet. If you want to have what he has right now, you've got to find the thing that no one's touched on that's again authentic and honest to you and passion project. I think again people try to ride on the coattails of things that have been successful and be like, well, he made $500 million. I'm like, well, that was 20 years ago. So what now? What's happening now and what can you create now with the hope that it too could be really successful?
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We have just a couple left, which is awesome. It's been such a great conversation so far. So, if there was just one thing that you hope people in the audience really take from our chat today, what would that be? One important nugget.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to talk to people.
Mine would be don't sacrifice your values.
No, I think that those are both awesome and important to keep close to your heart.
Mine was 1.5, and I apologize for that, but
No, that's great.
Harrison.
I won't take it back.
Oh my gosh.
It was an experiment. I was seeing if I could get away with it.
um, Completely shifting gears. What are your either favorite game or, if you can't choose, favorite games right now that you're loving?
Okay, I thought about it.
Oh yeah, go for it. You got
Okay.
one?
I'm gonna give 3.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna get different genres. Outer Wilds, of course. So good. 2, RimWorld for the chaos. And then 3, this is like a really small indie game that I'm like obsessed with, and I don't even know how to pronounce it. So it's called Dotage or Dotage, Dotage. But it's like kind of an homage to like turn-based board games, and it's a really, really ruthless colony sim that is just, I don't know, something about it just scratches something right here for me. So those are my 3.
I love the Dark Souls series an awful lot. I am a huge fan of um, the ethos, the message, the gameplay, the setting, the music, the you name it. It's just yeah, it just really gets me. So that's mine.
Awesome. Next, is there anything that you are excited about in the future? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I am really excited to launch Letter Lost. I'm really excited to be able to show everything else that we've been working on for so long that we haven't been able to talk about, haven't been able to show. Um, I'm just curious to see what everyone's reaction is to everything. That will sort of dictate what our next project is as well, and I'm excited for that. Like, if Letter Lost is successful enough, maybe it's a DLC for Letter Lost. If if we want to do something else after that, then maybe it's a different game. Maybe I don't know. I'm excited for it all.
I'm excited for springtime because it's Minnesota is so cold all the time. So I'm just like springtime and the game launching are going to be in a similar space. So I'm like, good things are coming in the next month.
That's awesome. I also am excited for springtime. Um, Last but not least, is there a good place to follow what y'all are working on, or can our audience connect with you on LinkedIn? Or if LinkedIn's not good, where can people follow you and Letter Lost? And if they're local to Minnesota, maybe see the show that you have opening soon.
Yeah. So Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Blue Sky, all of those will be FlatNine Games. But you'll see the Letter Loss logo on there, but we have it under our studio name, FlatNine Games. So we're on all of those. And we also have a Discord, and on our social media there are links. We have a link tree to our Discord. We are super active. It's a really big community. You can do our ARG on there as well. You can submit letters for the game, things like that. And then our theater is called Theater Elysian, and we're in Crystal, Minnesota, which is one of the ring suburbs of Minneapolis. And we do weird shows, weird music. I'll be there.
And we're, like she said, super active on Discord. There are a few people from well, now one more. I just saw one more person hop in from in the chat. So now we're all in our Discord. But yeah, we like I will personally talk to and interface and interact and involve anyone who talks to me. If there are any questions that you didn't get to ask in this chat, or you just want to meet me or Christine or anything else like that, there is no barrier between contacting us through there.
I think people have really lost, companies have really lost personal touch to things. They try to make things personal, but like if you see Harrison on there or you see I'm on there as Liv, it is us every time. There is nobody else. There is no other person behind the names. Like to us, authenticity and personal connection is really, really, really important. And I do think that's one of the things that we bring that is not appreciated as much anymore by a lot of larger companies.
All right, we are at the end of the hour, so out of respect for our fabulous guest time, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I really appreciated the awesome questions from the audience, and it's been such a treat to get to talk to the two of you today. I can't wait to play Letter Lost when it comes out and see what else you make in the future. I hope we can talk again sometime.
Thanks so much,
Thank you
Kenna.
so much for having us.